Greetings and welcome to this edition of
Positronic hypersonic.
I'm Barry P. Cook, and I'm here to talk to you about the most recent episodes of Marvel's What If. The first one was called What If the Emergence Destroyed the Earth? And as the story begins, the setting is something called the Iron Federation in the near future, where Riri Williams is apparently humanity's only hope. She meets with a woman from whom she acquired what looked like an easy bake oven or a microwave, before the woman turned her into the authorities because she suspected that Riri was trying to make a weapon, and soon Riri was being chased by some iron soldiers and their hologram duplicates. She manages to escape them, but ends up being faced with White Vision, who attacks her before she's rescued by Wong and some compatriots from the Alliance. Backing up, we find that Earth was essentially destroyed by the emergence of a celestial being who'd been buried deep in the Earth before the Eternals could unite to stop it. In the aftermath of its near destruction, Mysterio took control of what was left of the Earth with the help of White Vision and his Iron Enforcers. Back in the present, the Alliance people tell Riri they're interested in her new weapon because they think it can take out White Vision. And they present her with a lab she can use to make this weapon. But when White Vision shows up, she only has about 7 minutes to do it, as Vision lays waste to the Alliance forces surrounding the lab. She ends up being successful and uses her weapon to take down the White Vision, and Riri and the Alliance people then plan to take down Mysterio next. And they realize that they need to find a way to neutralize his ability to cast visions, which Riri thinks she can do by reworking White Vision's suit and sort of merging with it to acquire his powers. She then leads the Alliance crew on a mission to Mysterio's compound with a small ship and helps them avoid the visions of his fake weapons. But both she and her friends end up being knocked down by some actual weapons. When part of the team tries to hold off Mysterio's forces, Riri and one of their members tries to infiltrate his compound on foot. It turns out, though, that this last leg of the assault was an illusion, and Riri herself is captured by Mysterio, who wants to take the vision suit she made to prolong his own life. They fight, and he seems to get the better of her and starts to take the suit piece by piece, but when the Watcher breaks the rules and interferes by telling her not to give in and to fight, even though she felt like giving up, she manages to take back the pieces he'd taken and reassemble the suit on herself before turning the tables on Mysterio and defeating him. She then uses the power of the suit to flash an enormous Avengers symbol in the sky to give the people hope, at which point they topple a statue of Mysterio in the streets and seem to believe in their ability to take back what's left of Earth again. As the episode ends, we see that the Watcher's colleagues don't approve of what the Watcher did, and that they plan to keep an eye on him. So I didn't think too much of this episode. It was okay. I liked seeing Riri Williams. She's an interesting character, a fun character. And the stuff with the Vision suit was pretty wild, and seeing White Vision lay waste to everything was pretty wild. But, I didn't think there was anything special about this episode. Of course, it sets up sort of a final gambit of these last 4 episodes where the Watcher is essentially going to be battling his colleagues. And I guess that was an important turn of events, but anyway, the next episode was called What If 1872? And as it starts, John Walker and pals ring a bell to get the attention of Shang-Chi and Kate Bishop, aka Hawkeye, who show up and kick their asses in a gun/hand-to-hand combat fight before asking Mr. Walker where they can find someone called the Hood. Apparently, this Hood individual has been wreaking havoc across the West, preying on immigrants, one of whom was Shang's sister, prompting him to team up with Kate Bishop, who also has a grievance with the Hood, in order to bring him down. When they get to his last known location, they find a lone survivor of his latest evil deed, a child, who points them in the direction of a ghost train that apparently the Hood made off on with all of the town's residents. It isn't long before they catch up with the train and find that it's using a Stark device to essentially float over the terrain so that it can go where there are no tracks, including in midair. Throughout the train, they also find a whole bunch of people, including the child's dad, who all seem to be hypnotized into a catatonic state. They also encounter a man named Sonny Birch, who seems to be a mouthpiece for the Hood, and claims that the captured people are actually being liberated. Telling Hawkeye to wait it out, Birch brings Shang-Chi to see the Hood at a cabin location after the train stops, and he demands to know where his sister is. The Hood says that he'll tell him if he joins his cause, but of course, Shang-Chi declines and they fight as the kid watches. Meanwhile, Birch puts the whammy on Kate.
Please explain to me the scientific nature of the whammy.
After quite a protracted fight, Shang-Chi learns that the person pretending to be the Hood is in fact his sister, who took the Hood's power after defeating him. For some reason, she also took over whatever work the Hood was doing, though seemingly for a different reason, and is continuing it. When her brother refuses to join her, she says she has to kill him, and they continue fighting. Just as she's about to kill him, the boy finds a bell and begins to ring it, breaking Birch's spell, allowing Kate to shoot a bunch of his minions before getting to Birch, and cold cocking him with a pistol, and giving Shang-Chi a chance to get his second wind and continue fighting his sister for a time, before he decides he won't fight his sister anymore, despite her imploring him to do so, believing that she won't kill him. It turns out that he was wrong and that she does swing her blade at him, intent on killing him, and only fails because Kate shoots the blade away and then shoots whom she thought was just the Hood, killing Shang's sister. With normality restored, Shang-Chi and Kate Bishop watch as the kid tells the story of what happened to the townfolk before taking off on another adventure. As the episode ends, the Watcher is confronted by his colleagues over his so-called interference. So, I like this episode better than the previous one. I really like the Kate Bishop character, and the shootout action in this and the fighting action in this was really, really cool. The kid was lots of fun, and the Birch character was played by one of my favorite actors on the planet, Walton Goggins, so that made it really great. And I've always liked the Old West. I have an affinity for the Old West, so all of that together made me really like this episode. The fighting between Shang-Chi and his sister was also pretty cool, so I liked that. And, all of that together just made me like it a little bit more than the previous episode, which didn't have Kate Bishop and didn't have Walton Goggins and wasn't set in the Old West. The next episode was called What If the Watcher Disappeared? As the episode starts, Captain Carter arrives on a planet that's about to be consumed by an interdimensional universe eater, and where Nova Prime is the leader. And she is soon joined by Birdie the Duck, the child of Howard the Duck and the Kat Dennings character, which we saw a couple episodes back, all grown up and played by Natasha Lyonne, Kahori, and Storm, all of whom would rather not see this world destroyed, prompting them to kill the universe-eating beastie. Just after they do, a few shards from the observational plane rain down on their location, causing them to realize that the Watcher is in trouble. In the opening credits that follow, the Watcher's voice is replaced by the voice of the Eminence, his boss, I guess. He and two of his colleagues continue to berate the Watcher, whom they've chained up. As Birdie and Kahori play MCU foosball, Captain Carter and Storm discuss the issue of reality potentially ending, with trouble brewing in the fifth dimension, and realize that they need to go there. They then build an upgrade for their ship using the observation realm shards, and try to head to the fifth dimension. But they're not successful, and in the process they lose one of their 3 fragments, at which point Storm calls out to the gods of Asgard, it seemed, for help, whilst wielding Mjolnir, or something that looked a lot like Mjolnir. But that doesn't work either, and in fact causes them to lose one more of their fragments. Kahori then suggests that they need to call in some very particular help, in the form of Infinity Ultron, which comes with a whole bunch of risks, which causes Captain Carter to be unsure about the plan since it could get all of her friends killed, even though she knows they have no choice. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Infinity Ultron goes about raining down a whole bunch of destruction, causing him to be the only being left in existence in his universe, where he was in fact alone for eons, before Captain Carter, taking matters into her own hands in an effort to protect her team, shows up and says she needs his help. When her friends figure out that she's left, they arrive at Ultron's location looking for her, but find that she's gone, thinking that Infinity Ultron killed her, causing them to attack him until he manages to stop them. He explains that the Eminence and his buddies took her, as well as that he's realized that his solution to ending conflict, which was to wipe out all life, wasn't the right solution before he crushes the last shard, seeming to glow with its energy, which he then uses to help our heroes get to the fifth dimension. And that's where the episode ended, with a big to be continued on the screen, and it leads directly into the season and series finale, which is going to run tomorrow, and which I will do a video on tomorrow. So I like this episode. I'm glad we get to see Captain Carter finally. I was wondering where she was this whole time, because she was pretty big in the first 2 seasons. First season, anyway. And I'm glad that Kahori was back. I really liked that character. Storm showing up was fantastic. And I liked the Birdie character. This is apparently an original character they made for the series, and I think it's a cool character. I'm a huge fan of Natasha Lyonne, who did the voice, so I thought that was great. And I'm really curious to see how this whole thing ends up with the whole conflict between the Watcher and his colleagues. I mean, I think there's something to be said for a non-interference directive, which, in Star Trek, for example, is very important and which I tend to agree with most of the time. But even then, I think there are times to sort of do everything you can not to break the rule of non-interference, but to also help things along that need to be helped along at the same time. And I don't think the Watcher really crossed any lines, as it were, into what I would consider actual interference territory, but his colleagues disagree. So it's going to be interesting to see how they resolve that conflict. Will they resolve the conflict, or will his colleagues have to be killed or banished, or what's going to happen there? Can our team trust Infinity Ultron, or was that a bad idea now that he's got the power of the shard? What I really want to know is if they are going to connect all of the episodes to this finale like they kind of did with the first season. I really like that. They didn't do it in the second season, if I recall, to the same extent anyway. So I'm hoping they kind of do that this season, especially since it's going to be the end of the series. It would be really cool to sort of tie everything in, but it remains to be seen. That's really all there is to say. I liked these three episodes okay. One or the other more than one of the other. But yeah. So I'm going to get out of here for now. I'll be back to do a video review of the season and series finale, which is going to be shown tomorrow on Disney Plus. Until I return, I wish you peace and long life.